When you hear Talking Heads, it conjures art punk precision, nervous funk grooves, David Byrne's staccato voice, and the sound of modern alienation made musical. The name feels instantly iconic, minimalist yet cerebral, detached yet communicative. But behind that famous phrase lies a perfectly fitting origin, a piece of TV jargon, a friend flipping through TV Guide, and a group of art school musicians who saw poetry in a technical term. In the early 1970s, David Byrne and Chris France were students at the Rhode Island School of Design, immersed in visual art, performance, and conceptual experimentation. They first played together in a short-lived band called The Artistics, a precursor to what would become Talking Heads. Their circle included France's girlfriend, Tina Weymouth, who would later join them on bass. When the trio moved to New York City in the mid-70s, the city's underground music scene, especially the legendary CBGB, was bubbling with new energy. They were ready to form a band that combined art school ideas with punk's urgency. But first, they needed a name. According to band accounts, their friend Michael Wayne Zeev provided the spark. While flipping through TV Guide, he stumbled upon a glossary of television production terms. One phrase jumped out at him: talking head. In TV language, it meant a head and shoulders shot of someone speaking directly to the camera, a format emphasizing content over physical movement. Zeev thought it sounded like a concept, not just a term. He handed the magazine to Byrne and said, "You should call your band Talking Heads. It's perfect. All content, no action." The phrase struck a nerve. It had layers of irony and intelligence. Byrne, France, and Weymouth had been tossing around other names: Vogue dots, tunnel tones, billionaires videos, but nothing had the same clarity or punch. Talking Heads felt right. Simple, contemporary, and full of meaning. It described a static image with a voice, something both detached and direct. In other words, it captured the essence of the band they were about to become. Weymouth made the name real before their first show, printing t-shirts that read Talking Heads and wearing them around New York. Some people told them it was a terrible name. But to the trio, that only made it better. They debuted under it in June 1975, opening for the Ramones at CBGB. Within months, Talking Heads was the name everyone in the downtown art scene was buzzing about. As their career took off, the name began to feel prophetic. Byrne's lyrics explored communication, anxiety, and media, themes that mirrored the literal meaning of a talking head. The band's minimalist rhythms and fragmented narratives echoed that sense of a voice speaking from within the frame, dissecting modern life. They were at once participants and observers, just as a talking head on a screen both informs and isolates. The genius of the name lay in its balance of intellect and accessibility. It was rooted in everyday television language, yet elevated by context. It worked visually and conceptually: clean, modern, ironic. It also matched their art school sensibilities. The idea of taking something mundane and turning it into a layered statement about culture and perception. Byrne once described their sound as thinking man's dance music, and their name fit that perfectly. By the time albums like More Songs About Buildings and Food, 1978, Fear of Music, 1979, and Remain in Light, 1980, cemented their legacy, Talking Heads had become more than a band name. It was a metaphor. They were the voice inside the noise, the image that questioned itself, the band that made people dance while thinking about what it all meant. Decades later, the name still feels strikingly modern. In an age dominated by screens, sound bites, and talking heads of every kind, it remains both literal and philosophical, a perfect synthesis of pop and commentary. In the end, the name came from a flip of a magazine page, a casual suggestion that captured the art and irony of an entire generation. What began as content without action became one of the most dynamic expressions of voice, identity, and rhythm in rock history.